I got the wordplay of Wallace, work ethic of Shakur. I was sent into the future with a message from the Moors. I went to war, my weapon just a blessing from the Lord.
Welcome to Uncle Bobby's Country Corner, Saturday afternoon edition. The music you were listening to briefly comes from the God Box, my brother David Banner, who we should all support because he's a living example of what it means to put your money where your mouth is. There's someone sitting to my immediate left who also puts his money where his mouth is. Welcome, Jason Whitlock, to Uncle Bobby's Country Corner.
Good to be back, Bob. Good Saturday afternoon to you, a little later in the day. But this actually worked well for my schedule. I'm just got off my elliptical machine. I feel fresh. I'm ready to rumble.
Well, before we do, I want to acknowledge something that you put out last week that I found insightful and inspiring about Mr. Jimmy Whitlock, man.
My old man.
Yeah.
I was telling you about, it was Father's Day last Sunday.
Yeah,
that's right. Yeah, last Sunday.
Mm-hmm.
And I reposted the obituary I wrote when my father passed 3 years ago. My father was a great man, and he was a real man. And I always got, my brother and them were kind of upset with the way that I addressed my father's death. I was very close to my father. I was basically in business with my father, supporting his business the last 10, 15 years of his life. And, we were close, and I just wanted to keep it real. And so I didn't, a lot of times we feel it necessary to dress up people in death and present them not how they live, but kind of how we wanted to remember them or whatever. Mm-hmm. And I was like, no. How my father lived is how I want to remember him. He was my idol. He was a legend in his community in the, inner city Indianapolis. He was a legend. As a ladies' man, as somebody that didn't take no shit from anybody, as somebody who kept it extra black. He was I'm going to keep it all the way real, Bob. He was an ultimate ladies' man, good-looking guy, far better looking than me, in a suit every day, always had the freshest Cadillac. But one of his things he loved to brag about was I'm too stingy with mine to ever give this to a white woman. That was something he bragged about. And it wasn't until death that one of his friends squealed on him. Man, that was a lie. And my father owned like 3 different bars. And the one when I was a kid was Jimmy's J Bar J. And there was a white strip club next to it. And, come to find out, my father dipped his toe over there. But anyway, I just wrote an obituary that just captured who he was. My father was married 3 times, married to my mother first. He only had 2 kids, me and my brother, from my mother, but he was married 2 other times after that. And, well into his 60s. He died in his 70s, but well into his 60s. Most people, he contended he was the most eligible bachelor in Indianapolis and was out to prove that point every night that he could. And so I just wrote about him in a real way, who he was, and he loved me and my brother, and, insisted, he and my mother both insisted that we represent the Whitlock name and do better than they did, become educated, and move up in the world. But my father was very happy with his world right there in inner city Indianapolis, built a home in inner city Indianapolis, played golf in inner city Indianapolis, built a business in inner city Indianapolis, drank Crown Royal in inner city Indianapolis, went to P-Shake House. Y'all don't have P-Shake houses out here in Los Angeles.
What is that?
It's a little like, it's a ghetto casino, basically. You go and, there's little P-Shake houses all around the city. There would be like 8 of them in its heyday. And about every hour, one of the P-Shake houses would have a lottery where they check out these P's. And you'd buy these tickets. And if the P's matched the right numbers in this little book that they would sell you, you'd win money. So you'd buy
Almost
a
like
ticket
the
for
numbers.
you'd buy the ticket for $1, you'd win $100 if it hit. $5 you won $500. $10 you won $1,000. And that was our thing, you know. My father loved P-shade houses. My mother loved P-shade houses. Me and my brother loved P-shade houses. And anyway, that's
an interesting segue, and may he rest in peace, because what I read about him, I could relate to a brother like that, and we all know cats like that coming up. You know, they've been pillars of the community in an unofficial kind of a way.
Absolutely. And he was not. We had another guy that just passed in the past month, Slim Carruthers. That was my father's guy. That when my father fell completely on his ass, the IRS came and got him, took all his business away from him, and Slim put him back in action. Slim just passed. Slim Carruthers was the man. He was involved in all the local boxing. He owned several of the ticket houses I was talking about, owned all the real estate in the black community. He just passed away. It's like that whole era. That's why it was weighing so heavy on my mind. My dad and all of his friends, that whole era is gone. And, you sit around and wonder who's going to replace him.
That void is very obvious across the country, because there's always been the underworld and then the traditional professional community. And they always kind of intersected in a unique kind of way.
Now, in my view, there's less intersection. When I was growing up, again, my father knew all the black politicians. They all came to the Masterpiece Lounge or Jimmy's J Bar J, either one of his bars. And now there's just less intersection. We don't hang in those spots once we make it. And it's really a shame, because I'm telling my father's bar, I've written about it for years. It was my favorite place on earth. And when I thought to have a good time, I wanted to have it at the Masterpiece Lounge. And we just don't have that anymore in terms of those of us that somehow so-called make it. We don't set up camp at a Masterpiece Lounge and interact with guys like my father, guys like Slim Carruthers. That connection's gone to some degree.
I might hook up with you and take you over to the Cork, man. That would remind you of your dad's spot.
All right,
it's on the west side, man.
All right, I need that.
Yeah. But this is a great segue into a number of issues and personalities that we'll deal with today. Colin Kaepernick has been in the news, quite frequently over the last few months.
Well,
and one of the things that you said about him is that he didn't come from the hood, which, again, just spills right into the conversation we just had.
Yeah, and I'm taking some heat for saying that, but it's one of the realest things. And again, we're in this era right now where you can't have real conversations. You're vilified for saying what's real. And what is real about Colin Kaepernick is that he was never, and I don't mean this in a derogatory fashion, but he was never a part of the black community, ever. And I'm not denigrating him. I'm just telling facts. His parents were mixed race. His dad was black, never had anything to do with him. His mom, white mom, gave him up for adoption. A wonderful white family, I think out of Wisconsin, adopted him. Then they moved him out to somewhere in California, I think, but never a part of the black community that he is now allegedly speaking out on their behalf. And that's why much of what he's doing rings inauthentic to me, because I do think in his mind it's well-intentioned, but a lot of times people die from what they don't know. And Colin Kaepernick doesn't know what he doesn't know. And that's why it's so easy for people around him who he's just met to manipulate him and to get him on topics and talking about things that sound good over Twitter and Facebook, But in the real world, and this is where I keep talking, my perspective isn't for Twitter. It's coming out of the real world. And so when I hear him, the police or the slave patrol, I'm like, whoa. In the black community, that's just not true. And again, we have an adversarial relationship with the police in a lot of black communities, but it's one of those things where if you really got some hair on your chest and some gray in your hair, there's a thin line between love and hate. And a lot of that tension is because we really need the police. We have high expectations for them because a lot of times in our community, we really need them. And so we get upset with them when they make an error, when they have misconduct. But at the end of the day, we really need them. And so, again, when I think about my father, who absolutely never left the black community, mentally, physically, financially, never left, had a relationship with the police to protect his business, protect his home, giving him the ability to make a living and employ people in the black community. And so it's irresponsible just to label them as slave catchers when we're calling the police a lot. We didn't call slave catchers ever, as far as I know. We didn't say, hey, we need you, 911, can I get a slave catcher over here? I got a runaway slave. We do that with the police, and we have relationships with the police. And listen, again, there's a thin line, again, between love and hate. We have communities that need the police, and policemen come into our communities. A lot of them, some of them may not be the best intention, but many of them risk their lives in our protection in our community. And we can't disavow that or disrespect that. And so, again, I hear Colin Kaepernick say things that sound good over Twitter, sound good to people who have never operated in the black community in a real way. A lot of people go and visit the black community and then get the hell out before the street lights come on. But if you've ever lived there, laid your head down there day after day after day, had family members there, you would have a more nuanced, a more thoughtful perspective than what Kaepernick's putting out. And again, I feel bad for Colin Kaepernick. I really do. And some people think I'm just this horrible critic of his, but I feel bad. He is in an extreme identity crisis right now, and people are manipulating him.
Now, one of the comments about his situation that came across my screen was on the show that you do on Fox, and Ray Lewis was in studio, and collectively there was a back and forth that kind of landed on the premise that he has to get his priorities together in order to play professional football again. What's your take on that? Well,
and I appreciate you asking the question, Bob, but again, don't be ashamed to say what you think, because that may spark me, because, we've had this conversation. I thought what Ray was saying was very appropriate. Ray Lewis, the, Pro Bowl, Hall of Fame linebacker, a guy who has said some things like he would like to follow in Jim Brown's footsteps. I think Ray's intentions are good, and what Ray, when he starts talking about, hey, man, I got boots on the ground dealing with the inner city of Baltimore, Miami, where I think he's from, dealing with the gang community, dealing with people in those communities. And what he was saying on the show was that he's been trying to reach out to Colin Kaepernick and to try to explain to him that, look, man, there has to be an order and a strategy to what you're doing. It can't just be all feelings. It just can't be tweets. And, I think most people believe Colin Kaepernick is well-intentioned. But what the argument Ray was making is that he's out of order. The road to hell is paved with good intentions. And so what that means is people can have all the right motives and still do the wrong thing. because they haven't strategized, they haven't put any thought. Things are out of order. And so Ray comes at it from a very spiritual perspective, and he talks about a divine order. I don't know what Kaepernick's religious feelings are. He may have none. But whether you have religious feelings or not, if there's no strategy, if there's no, I'm going to do X, Y, and Z, that way A, B, C, and D can happen, you just piss it into the wind. And so, again, where I've always been critical of Kaepernick is this little thing that he did of kneeling that gave everybody this feeling, oh, God, Kaepernick, he spoke for us, and I feel this brother. And I'm like, no. Kaepernick's one of these unique individuals, and we don't produce a lot of them, who can make $100 million playing professional sports. We think there's a lot, but there's really not. There's only a handful of us that ever get access to that kind of money and wealth. And if you can acquire that kind of money and wealth, you can then use it to impact the black community in a way that goes well beyond making people feel good.
Well, let me just chime in. First of all, I'm not ashamed of my point of view about anything. And let's just kind of get that out of the way. I often defer in our conversations on air simply because I've created a space for people to speak here. I'm never going to have a show where I attack people or go at them. We're going to have some difference of opinion, but I don't do those kind of shows. With that being said, and as it relates to the conversation we had off the microphone, I felt that Ray made a big deal about the NFL brand, and it kind of confused me a little bit because I understood to a degree what he was saying in terms of first you need to handle your business as an athlete, okay, but then he said almost, well, my interpretation of it was he wanted him to divorce himself from the activism, as like you got to choose one or the other. And then I thought about the history of activism as it relates to people that I know and feel very strongly about in terms of my relationship with them, i.e. Jim Brown. You can do both. But
let me ask you this. Let me ask you this. Do you think Colin Kaepernick at 28 is standing intellectually on the foundation that Jim Brown was at 28? Answer honestly.
No.
Okay, so that's
hell
one.
No.
All right, good. So again, this is the thing that frustrates me about us is everybody wants to be a general. Nobody wants to be a private, a sergeant, a lieutenant. Nobody wants to play, oh, okay, I'm in charge of the treasury, the bank account. I'm in charge of getting the soldiers together so they can go out and do war. Oh, I'm the general in charge of overall strategy. Everybody wants to do everything. Colin Kaepernick, what the argument is, and what I've been trying to say, and I think what Ray and others that are legitimately concerned and don't want anything from Kaepernick is, are you sure you're playing the right role for Colin Kaepernick? You just admitted Colin Kaepernick is not standing on what Jim was standing on at 28, and he damn sure ain't standing on what Jim's standing on at 80. And so, again, the role that Kaepernick perhaps should be playing is, man, get this NFL money and then take a piece of it, whatever you're comfortable with, and use it for the betterment and the support of people who actually can be the spokespeople. And again, so Kaepernick is doing some of this. He pledged $1 million and he's giving away 100,000 of it and blah, blah. But what concerns Ray and concerns people like me is like, man, some of these guys you're running with, they some straight up hustlers. It's been proven. It's been documented. We can ignore it because, they've said the right things over Twitter and they're popular over Twitter. But it's been documented that the Sean King guy at the New York Daily News, he's got a record of ripping off black people. Mm-hmm. And this is unquestioned. And that's who you're running with. And then because of your insistence on trying to be a Twitter spokesman, you're preventing yourself from doing what you're actually best at, playing football and acquiring wealth and using that wealth to impact and help black people. Everybody has a role to play. Kaepernick isn't Malcolm X. It's not Martin Luther King. He looks real foolish doing it, and we look real foolish gassing him up like he's doing something good for us when he runs his mouth. And oh my God, you're Whitlock, you're saying what conservative white people want to hear about Kaepernick. You got to support Kaepernick. These same conservative and or liberal white people, they're laughing at Colin Kaepernick. No one's taking that shit serious because it's not serious. It's not standing on any firm foundation of logic that would really challenge the system. It's an emotional thing. And if you're caught up in emotion, and again, I'm a bit frustrated this week, or just like had it with all the people that are just selling black folks emotion. And, I'm going to do something that feels good and sounds good. And, it's going to get me all this Twitter applause. And none of it really have to do with the betterment of black people. None of it. It's playing to a weakness that we have that's being taken advantage of. We are seen as an emotional group of people. And that if you can knock them off their emotional square, logic and reason will fly out the window, and you can come in and run any game you want on us.
Well, I want to take off on that with an example of the emotion. The verdict came out in the Castillo case this week, and here we go again with all the attention being focused on the injustice that is apparent there. There's no getting around that. That's just that's a bad shoot, a bad verdict. They can't couch that any other way than to say that, look, we can do this and we're going to do that, and historically police get the benefit of the doubt.
Let me ask you this, though. The tough questions that we got to ask about the Castillo case. There was 2 black people on that jury.
Yeah.
And it was a unanimous not guilty verdict.
Right.
And so, again, we get upset with the prosecution, from everything I've read, actually did a legitimate job of prosecuting that case. The police force there walked away from the Latino man that did the shooting. They fired him and walked completely. They basically, normally it's like, oh my God, you get leave of absence, right. And they wrap their arms around. They walked away from him, said, have at him, prosecute him, blah, blah, blah. And then it went to a jury, and they had to deliberate with 2 black people on the jury, and they came back not guilty. And so I don't want to single out those 2 people, but I do have some questions for them. And then I do also have some questions for us thinking about these 2 people, because somehow they got in a room with 10 other people and decided the decision they must have decided was, well, he was dangerous. No, seriously. That's the only thing. That's the only thing that could have happened for them to come back not guilty, is they got there, man, he was dangerous. And then I have to ask, because 2 black people participated, I have to say, well, what is going on in this society? What message has been pumped down the throat of the American public, including black people? Because if 2 out of the 12 people on the jury were black, that's like 17% of the jury pool. We're 13% of the population. And so what I'm saying, what's been pumped into this society that has said, man, the black man is so dangerous that if he tells you he has a gun, shoot him. Something has been, because 2 black people signed off on this. 17% of that jury signed off on that this dude was so dangerous just because he told a policeman he had a gun, the policeman had the right to shoot him. And so I got some questions for us about this pop culture and how we have said nothing as we as black men have been defined as the most dangerous creature in America. And we've helped. The music industry has certainly waved the dollars in front of us to do it. The movie industry, everybody has waved the dollars in front of us to do it. But we've gone along with this and allowed ourselves to be defined as so dangerous that two black folks would sit in that jury and go, yeah, he was dangerous. Had to be put down. What choice did the cop have? Let him go.
Now, let's look at the black female, mother four, who was killed last week. How did that just?
I don't know all the details on that. Okay, I know the police say she pulled a knife or whatever.
Yeah.
She was. Again, I can't litigate. Look, man, the police are not perfect by any stretch. Not remotely perfect. In a society this loaded up with guns, I'm going to be honest with you, I'm surprised there aren't more police shootings. Because everybody here in America has a gun. And we do a lot of shooting. I'm talking about America, period. On ranges, at each other, blah, blah, blah. But again, Bob, we can go down into the weeds and question every police shooting. And we can do that. Again, I have a question. Is that how our time is best spent? Because, again, I've argued time and time again, the government is doing everything in its power to prevent police shootings. They are, because it's financially costly for them. It's not good for their reelection campaigns and things like that. So the government's already motivated. And literally, I think, and despite there are certainly, my family has been impacted by this. There are certainly cases where, oh man, this is effed up. It's wrong. They're out of line here. But is that really the plague that's killing us? Is that real? Because again, I'm going to give a preposterous number. Let's say there are 500 horrible, wrong police killings a year of black people. If we stop those 500, will it stop the killings that we do to each other in the thousands every year?
That's a legitimate and necessary question that ultimately has to be dealt with in our own culture. And
because,
the sooner the better.
Right, because, Bob, again, because of where I started out in this society, because of where my father kept me at mentally through his existence and through his business, Bob, we can't sit up and lie. I'll let the black people that have never lived in the hood, aren't really even concerned with the hood, I'll let them pretend like the people in the hood are sitting around going, oh my God, police may kill me tonight. I'll let them pretend that, because I know the conversation we're having. I know the conversation mothers, fathers, aunties, and uncles have with their kids before they go out that door every day. And it's not about
the police.
It's not.
No.
It's about us.
It is. Baby Diamond and Nook Nook.
Thank you. And again, so we can deal with reality, or we can have a conversation about Twitter and what plays well over Twitter. But the conversation every day in our community is about, man, so-and-so got out this week, and he's still mad about X, Y, and Z. And, he knocked up so-and-so's girl and blah, blah, blah. And they beefing over this territorial spot. Be careful when you blah, blah, blah.
That's what we're talking about.
Every day. Yeah, and we're not sitting around going, man, the police going to drive through here at 2 o'clock and they may shoot one. That's not the conversation.
It really ain't, Jason. Speaking of conversations, earlier this week on the Rock Newman show, he interviewed Boyce Watkins, and you were one of the topics that they discussed. As I watched that, my personal take on it was Rock kind of expected Boyce to go a different route than he went in that conversation. But what's your perspective on that conversation about you?
I'm not sure if Rock had any expectations. I'm really not.
I'm just going by his body language. It was
No. He did hype it up like something about to go down.
Right. That's what I was going with.
He did. But I'm not. I think that maybe.
Do you know him?
Vaguely, loosely, from back in the day when he was heavily involved in boxing.
Riddick Bowe and all that, yeah.
But I think that may have been his inexperience as a broadcaster more than what he was hoping, than his intentions. But, Rock Newman and Boyce Watkins, Dr. Boyce Watkins, who I have a lot of respect for both of these guys. Someone sent me the clip, hey, Rock and Boyce were talking about you. And so I watched it, and I saw Rock gas up Boyce to go at me. And Boyce, Boyce basically dismissed my point of view because I work for Fox. That was his answer to everything. It's like, well, he works for Fox. And so, therefore, anything he says can be dismissed because he, according to Boyce, Fox is this racist institution. And first of all, I just want to say, under his guide, let me say a couple things. First of all, they had the conversation about me that went on for 5 or 10 minutes. And then the last 50 minutes of the show, they basically said everything that I believe in. And Boyce Watkins, I think, knows that damn near everything they said is basically the stuff that I say. And so my point of view is like, well, hold on. If I'm saying the same thing you're saying, but I'm just saying it on a Fox Sports platform, the truth is the truth wherever it's slung from. It really is. And I'm not going, and people want to say, oh, Fox is this terrible place, but I'm going to turn on Empire and The Simpsons and everything else Fox puts out, and I'm going to love it to death. And we have this mentality, again, that I talked about last week, that anything conservative allegedly is poison for black people. Well, Boyce Watkins is very conservative. Everything he talks about comes from a very bootstraps, self-determination, don't see yourself as a victim point of view. I went to his website after I watched this video, and it's him, great picture of him, never let yourself be a economic victim. And his whole mentality is basically the same mentality that I preach, is that wasting any time focused on your victimhood prevents you from being a winner. And you don't have to be a loser in this society. I heard him talk about, on this Rock Newman thing, about hope and how important hope is. And I'm like, what? Shit, this is the stuff I say. and then again, at one point he was talking about the greed, and Whitlock is making so much money at Fox, and I'll go straight back to what I've been saying about Colin Kaepernick. I'm supposed to give up this job that takes care of my mama, that takes care of my family, my nephews, brothers, sisters, friends of mine. I'm not going to get all off into what I do with my money, but I certainly don't blow it all on myself. I certainly don't. A number of people close to me, I help them all realize their dreams. My mother certainly, and my father certainly deserve the support that I've given them. My father the last 10, 15 years of his life, and my mother for as long as she walks this planet. I'm going to do for her and take care of her. And I'm supposed to just walk away because Boyce Watkins don't like the platform I'm on? I mean, when he was at Syracuse University, is that an HBCU?
No,
It's not?
Certainly not.
Okay. And so when he was collecting a check from Syracuse and every other white university he could, I wasn't beating him up for that. He's taking care of himself and his family. So, again, this goes back to Kaepernick or whatever. You go out here and earn money however you can ethically, and as long as you're saying what you believe. Because, again, the inference was, and Brock Newman asked the question, if Whitlock was an entrepreneur and had his own platform, would he be saying these things? Well, I'm not getting paid anything here at Morris Media to come on your show. Does my conversation change from here to what you hear me say on Fox Sports?
And the proof is on the tape.
And when I was working for ESPN, when Kansas City started, did my conversation change? If you go all the way back to childhood and ask my mama and daddy if my conversation has ever wavered, long before there was ever a paycheck, the things that I'm saying today, I was saying then. My parents and my family can vouch for it. I have a different point of view on how we move ahead as black people.
Okay, let me ask you about the latest dust-up, so to speak, surrounding your commentary about the Golden State Warriors not going to the White House.
Well,
and that they were cowards. Did you
here's what I said. Yeah, no, I definitely use that word intentionally because, again, they've been vocal critics of President Trump. And I believe in actually confronting the people that I'm critical of. And so trust me on this. If Colin Kaepernick invited me to his house, I'll be there to explain, hey, young man, here's what you're doing wrong. But he might invite me there to have cocktails and smoke weed. I'm going to carry my conversation to him. I don't care what his agenda is. I'm going to carry my conversation to him. And so if I get invited to the White House, I'm going to carry my conversation to Donald Trump. And I'm going to take advantage of whatever limited opportunity there is to interact with the man and hope to create another opportunity. I've listened to the D.L. Hughley, it's just a photo op, and, you don't go to the White House for engagement. Well, hold on. I mean, again, this is where I don't know where DL came from, so I don't want to speak out of pocket. I don't know where he came from, but I just know he ain't got no hustle in him. Because you show me a man that is after something. Let's say there's some woman he's after that wants no part to him, blah, blah, blah. But she says, hey, if you meet me over here, I'll take a picture with you. But I won't engage in conversation with you. Any man I know is going to go over and take that picture with her and going to throw some words in her ears, hoping that he can pull a number or do whatever so he can get that second conversation. And so I don't care what Trump's agenda is. If you're a strong critic and opponent of his, take any and every opportunity to engage with him and confront him and disagree with him strongly and create a conversation so that perhaps you can either move him or at least let him know exactly how you feel. And so, yeah, I see it as real cowardly. I see it as somebody wants something. Allegedly, all these guys that are critical of Trump want him to change, want America to change, but they're afraid to go get it and make it happen. And when I think about Martin Luther King met with presidents, including Lyndon Baines Johnson, who, again, we sitting up here having, Donald Trump said on a bus, he said X, Y, and Z. Lyndon Johnson sat in the White House and called us every nigga in the book. Everybody knows this. You looking at me shocked.
No, I wasn't shocked. I was shocked that you used the word. Well,
I'm just keeping it real. This is what Lyndon Johnson did.
Yeah.
He kept it real.
Yeah.
And so here's a man that put it on record. He didn't think much of us. Mm-hmm. But Martin Luther King dealt with him and forced him basically to sign some legislation that was in our favor. Lyndon Johnson was no great
friend of the Negro.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's for sure.
And so you we have a cowardly generation that, again, I'm going to resist and we're just going to ignore. And that's why it's cowardly. It's counterproductive. It's not how you operate. Not if you really want change. And so, again, I look at these young people, and they're just following along with all the Twitter groupthink because everybody's addicted to Twitter, and they don't understand how real moves get made and the kind of boldness and fearlessness that it takes to make some shit happen. D.L. Hughley, and I know he's making a little killing putting out videos about me every week, and all of you, D.L., he's really got me upset, frustrated. He's the Tyler Perry of the civil rights movement.
Ooh, wow.
Because all of it's very emotional, very non-strategic. It's a clown show. And, again, DL might be well-intentioned. I don't know. He looks desperate to me. Career has fallen apart, and so he's now going to be the angry, emotional, civil rights comedian.
So let me ask you this. The sniping has intensified and accelerated across several fronts in terms of us as a people. Nobody, as you said it in another way a few minutes ago, is able to sit down and say, look, I don't necessarily agree with you, but where's the common ground and what pulls us forward as opposed to just staying right here toe-to-toe and getting nothing done? What suggestions do you have to get us out of this morass that we're in as it relates to forward progress?
I'll go back to Boyce Watkins and Rock Newman because I got to give them credit. I thought their conversation was a little off base, but it was respectful and it was authentic. And I think at some point I would try to push. And, I reached out to Rock Newman, his show. They follow me on Twitter. I followed them, sent them a text. You ain't got to ask Boyce Watkins about me. You ask me. Because I don't understand this generation. And Rock Newman is older than me. Mm-hmm. But there's a cowardliness amongst us that we can't even address and have a conversation because we all scared. Roland Martin and I have been friendly for several years. I reached out, hey, Roland had me on your show. You used to have me on your show. You disagree with me? Let's talk it out. I ain't heard from Roland since. No, seriously, man. I mean, there's Jim Brown. When me and Jim Brown first met, man, Jim scolded me and came at me and questioned me in a very strong way. And I stood in there and we went back and forth. And it was like Jim came off to me the same way him and my father around the same age. And that's how Jim came off to me. And it was no big deal. And we ended up forging a relationship out of that. Bob, I talked about it the last time I was on your show about things have gotten so feminine that I don't even recognize people. What are we on? That we can't conversate as men and confront each other and deal with each other. Everybody wants to run and hide or do something really, really emotional and just call names and have a cat fight where we just scratching and scrawling at each other, man. I'm just telling you, if you listen to, dude, I'm not D.L. Hughley. I'm just telling you, go listen to his stuff, man. It's the Tyler Perry of the civil rights movement. And it's I don't get it. And again, we're trying to debate, or at least I'm trying to have a discussion about ideas that move us forward. That's it. That's my only agenda. This whole, and I want to actually talk to these people that, oh, your agenda is to cape up and say what the white man wants to hear. Really? I want, show me what you're talking about. Let's put some meat on those bones, and let's go back and forth, and let's see whose ideas actually are based in fact and reality and are really about moving us forward and not having some emotional connection. Again, the reason why I keep going to Tyler Perry makes relatively bad movies that appeal to women's emotions. And that, again, when I'm looking at D.L. Hughley, because my sister reached out to me about, did you see this D.L. Hughley thing? Yeah, he put that out there for you. And again, it has a lot of appeal with black women, and that's what it's. Hey, I'm trying to force a conversation that we need to have, and we need to get off. And so I'll go back to Boyce Watkins and things I heard from Rock Newman. All of it right in line with what I'm talking about. Self-determination, relying on ourselves for our salvation and for our success here in America. We need to reject the people, the liberals, who are basically telling black people, you can't do a damn thing in America unless we okay it. And so if you buy that mindset, then I don't blame you. Stay in that little liberal bandwagon corner and think that's the blackest thing you can do. Wait on the white man to save you. You're going to be waiting a long time.
Well, in our final minutes for today's show, I want your opinion on something that I think is consistent with all of the conversations we've had, and that is, what can be done and what will we do to change the paradigm, move the needle in this way? Last Tuesday, I had Rock Johnson on the show, who you have known and supported the ICANN All-Stars for a number of years. And I had Fernando Pulliam, who runs the Fernando Pulliam Performing Arts Academy right across the street here. These are two programs where there's an immediate return on an investment. Over those, since 1994, of the 150 kids that have played Division I basketball, because Rock was able to showcase those kids, some of those kids were able to be showcased because of people like yourself. So you saw where your money went, okay? The Performing Arts Academy, these are kids 8 to 18 years old that are playing well beyond their years. Matter of fact, they're performing at 3 o'clock today, a few blocks from here. And they're going to pitch one hell of a bitch, man. But more importantly, in both of those situations, it's the life lessons that are being taught and the characters that are being molded. And then both of these individuals came in the studio in need of financial support. And the support that they're getting is not coming from the same kind of folks that are constantly talking about what we should do. How do we get past the noise and begin to select institutions, organizations, individuals that are actually affecting positive social and economic change?
Well, I mean, I'm going to go back because I think you re-asked the original question that I did not answer very well. I sidetracked and went on to other things. And so I'm not giving you the best answer because you've asked a huge question that I don't know. I certainly don't have an answer for you today. But the reason why I keep mentioning Boyce Watkins and Rock Newman is because I actually like what they're doing in terms of Rock Newman has got this Your Black World thing that's his platform. He's in control of that conversation, and he's trying to lead a black conversation about self-determination. Rock Newman got some show that he's doing out of Howard University. He's in control of it. So I get where their questions are coming from towards me. But hey, how come you ain't an entrepreneur? How come you ain't got your own thing? I get that. But again, everybody has a different role to play is where I came from originally. And so it may be in supporting people like Boyce Watkins and Rock Newman we can finally have a conversation that gets us, because a lot of what Boyce Watkins talks about is about supporting things like what Rock Johnson's involved in, and it's about self-determination. It's about taking control of your destiny rather than looking for the white man to put some special magic water dust on you or whatever. And so I guess the best answer I can give you today, Bob, that's not a complete answer for your question, but it's just the advice I would give you. I like what Boyce Watkins is doing, controlling his own platform, trying to lead a conversation about self-determination. I like what Rock Newman's doing. He's trying to support that and trying to build his own little platform. And so as best we can to create our own platforms where we can have a full-body discussion about what we as black people need to do, we need to be in support of that, because as long as we rely on the white liberals in the Democratic Party to tell us what to do, we will always remain under their control and getting fed the scraps that they determine we should have.
Now, you eliminated the Democratic Party and liberals. Does that put you in the Republican camp as an individual? Or
I've never voted.
Okay.
I don't ever intend on voting. This is a personal, individual decision for me as a human being. I don't like politicians. But what I'm saying, what I guess I would be saying is, Boyce Watkins and other people, Rock Newman, need to own their perspective. Their perspective is conservative. It may not be Republican, but it's conservative. And they need to be proud of that, because I'm telling you, black people, we need mental free agency. We've been convinced that if it's not liberal, it's poison for us. And so perhaps what we as black people should do, those of us that are involved in politics, we should perhaps flip parties. Again, go confront the people you disagree with and provoke them to change. Be bold. Be fearless. Get up off of your little farm or plantation the Democrats got you on and go be bold. Those of us that really believe in being involved in the political system, again, my non-involvement in politics, that's my personal problem and personal issue. I'm not saying it's certainly not a solution for black people to be like me. It's just a quirk in my personality. If somebody tells me something, they damn sure better do it. And politicians don't do that, so I avoid them.
One other last parting question for you. Back to Kaepernick, the athlete. You had mentioned the Dallas Cowboys as the better fit for him. I kind of stepped back and looked at that and said, I think the Cleveland Browns would be a really good fit for him for the following reason.
You want Hugh Jackson to lose his job. That's why.
No. You're going to let me just make my point,
Go ahead,
man?
make your
Thank
point,
you very much. I think he would be a good fit because of where the team is right now. They've got the big wide receiver that would give him a comfort level if he's ready to play football. I don't know if he can return to that spot where he was just an amazing natural athlete who happened to play quarterback.
So, Bob, you know they've had like 30 quarterbacks in Cleveland in the last 2 or 3 years.
Correct.
And so you just want to – that's like feeding Kaepernick to the Lions.
I don't think so. I think so. The defense is going to give him support this year. The Cleveland Browns are going to be a better defensive team this year. I like that receiver, man. He's electric, man. And I think that he would be impactful at Cleveland.
He needs something better than that. And Hugh Jackson
why do you say that,
better than that.
Are you saying that he can't play anymore or what?
Dude, he just won one game in San Francisco, and you want him to do it again next year.
I ain't buying that. That's a whole different thing, man. A whole different mindset.
Hugh Jackson don't need that headache and circus. And the guy won one game last year in San Francisco. If he comes back and wins one game this year in Cleveland, that's 2-5 30 over the last 2 years. That's not what he needs.
You know what? I'm gonna admit, I ain't got no business trying to talk football with you because that's your bailiwick right there.
It really is.
That's why I saw. Now we're talking basketball. Now we're gonna go a different direction, man. But I'm gonna defer to you on the football conversation as we close the show for today.
That was a fast hour, Bob.
We got in it, man, and we just kept going, man.
It was a fast hour.
Yeah. But if you got a parting comment, by all means, speak on it.
You know what they should title this? Say your favorite word, and then I'm gonna add something to it.
Narrative.
That ain't your favorite word.
What's my favorite word, man?
You know it starts with an N, but it ain't narrative. Say your favorite word.
No. See, you left people with the impression that I'm your valet, man. Now you tell me what my favorite word is.
That's the word you use more often than any other word in the dictionary.
That's not my favorite word, though.
All right, well, say the word that you use most often.
Nigga.
Are you serious? Just say it one time.
What, nigga?
Are you serious? That's what this whole thing should be titled. These people talking about me, I want to say,
nigga,
are you serious?
Okay.
To all of them. Everybody, all these guys running their mouth about me. That's really what I want to say to them. Are you serious?
Well, I know that you are because you've planted a flag over here on Crenshaw Boulevard with your presence. And it is having an impact, and based on the feedback that I'm getting, and it's more so because people have not heard a complete sentence from Jason Whitlock. This has just been sound bites. And when you come in here, that's one of the reasons I just kind of lay back and let you flow, because I think that's fair, man, for people to hear a complete thought and a complete conversation with you.
Glad I can.
Yeah. Right. As we close out, I want to say, look, support the I Can All-Stars. They're getting ready to go to a couple of major tournaments in Georgia and Florida. And if you're going to do so, just go to iCanYouthFoundation.org. And also, I would really appreciate support for the Fernando Pullum Performing Arts Academy. And you can just Google that name. And finally, my brother David Banner's new album, The God Box. It's more than an album or a particular product. It's actually a diverse musical product, but it's supporting somebody that's got skin in the game. As we sit here today and we talked about folks that talk a good game and then folks that are actually putting back into this community. I know David Banner has been and continues to be a guiding light in that regard. So as we close out today, as always, thank you for letting me be myself again. And Fortis, we appreciate you, sister, for giving us an opportunity to operate out of here. We out of here.
My Uzi weigh a ton, I bought it. My Uzi weigh a ton, I bought it. Ain't got nobody going.